Sports time now, and we head on over to the sports studio and say a very good evening to Anne-Marie Burke.
Well, good evening to you, Lisa. And what I can tell you is that all of the participants involved in the Barbados-Argentina Exchange Sports Program are doing well amidst the coronavirus pandemic. While the Barbadians left Argentina before COVID-19 set in, the Argentinians are still here. Argentine Ambassador, His Excellency Gustavo Pandiani, says that the pandemic has brought sporting operations between Barbados and his South American country to a halt, despite the Memorandum of Understanding, which sees the exchange of cricketers and footballers being coached in both nations.
We have two Argentine football players in the island doing the quarantine. They are playing for Empire, and they were there when the quarantine went on. So they're sharing with all Barbadians this experience. So we are okay. This virus is going to affect in terms of postponement, but it's not going to cancel the cooperation. That is for sure.
Ambassador Pandiani added that despite the global interruption, all is not lost, as the exchange program has not been cancelled, but merely postponed.
We have been doing exchanges in football and cricket. Our footballers are in Argentina and in Barbados working together as well as our cricketers. And unfortunately, this coronavirus is going to postpone. It's not going to cancel, but it's going to postpone some of the visits that were already there in our calendar. But we will survive. Our cooperation, we will be surviving this virus, and we will go back to the cooperation we had.
A leading global health scientist is warning that holding the Olympic Games next year is very unrealistic unless a vaccine against the coronavirus is developed by then. Professor Devi Sridhar, the chairman of the Global Health at the University of Edinburgh, believes if a vaccine is found within a year, then Tokyo 2020 is realistic once the vaccine is effective, affordable and available. The postponement of the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games is the first such delay in the Games' 124-year modern history, as the global outbreak of COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc on the international sporting calendar. CBC's Melissa Farley looks at what else has to go into hosting the Games next year.
Now that the new dates have been chosen, the practicalities of moving the event can begin in earnest. First, there are the athletes. Concerns about their health and well-being were a major motivating factor for the postponement decision. Some 11,000 athletes from 206 national Olympic committees are hoping to compete at the Olympics. They have known for several years where and when the Games were due to take place and have trained hoping to peak this summer. Although 57% had already qualified for the Games and have now received assurances that their qualifications will be valid next year, 43% are yet to do so. That percentage will now have to replan their training programs, which are being complicated by containment measures in many countries, which have made training, particularly for team sports, hugely challenging. Then there is the sports calendar. The sporting landscape is very crowded, with many events serving as training and qualification opportunities for the Olympics. The decision to postpone the Games means that sports federations are now able to adjust their own calendars too, but will need to fit in with the new dates for the Games. The sports world has shown solidarity in this regard, with some federations already deciding to shift their own World Championships to 2022. And what about the event itself? Well, there are 33 sports on the program for the Olympic Games, each involving an international federation. With these sports, there are 339 separate events taking place in 42 competition venues. Making sure that the venues are still available will be a first priority for the IOC and the local organizing committee. One of the features that makes the Olympic Games so special is that the event is beamed across the world in real time on digital or linear platforms. This is made possible thanks to the Olympic Broadcasting Services and the rights holding broadcasters. They plan their schedule years in advance, often around the global sporting and entertainment calendars, but they will need to revisit their schedules along with those of their advertisers. Finally, there are the spectators, another key part of any Olympiad. Millions of people have already bought tickets, some for what was promising to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, while others had already made travel arrangements, planned excursions, and additional activities to coincide with the experience. Although the organizing committee plans to make every effort to ensure that the tickets already sold remain valid in 2021, some spectators who were planning the trip may no longer be able to go. The logistics behind ticket reimbursements and resales will offer an added layer of challenge for the operation. So to all those on the front line battling this pandemic, here's a message from IOC President Thomas Bach.
We pay tribute to the ones who fight so hard against the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you to all the doctors, the nurses, the healthcare workers, and the many volunteers. Thank you for your dedication, your commitment, and your resilience. You are our true champions.
So the complex challenge for any parties now will be to get everything done just over a year from now. Melissa Farley, CBC Sports.
And Anne-Marie is back now with our final look at sports.
Well, the England and Wales Cricket Board is preparing to officially postpone England's Test series against West Indies, put back the T20 Blast until later in the summer, and cancel the inaugural 100 tournament. At a crucial board meeting this Thursday, the ECB will not be expected to confirm a definitive new timetable for the season, but they are planning to issue guidance on how a remodeled campaign could look. There is no prospect of the West Indies series taking place as planned, as the first test is due to start at the Oval on June the 4th. So that tour will be postponed in the hope it can be rescheduled for later in the summer. West Indies remain committed to touring England, and there are two potential windows for them to do so, on either side of their home test series against South Africa at the end of July. A 3-test series could be squeezed in at the start of that month or in September, which would allow England to play their 3-test series against Pakistan as planned in August. All professional cricket has already been suspended until May the 28th, the scheduled launch date of the Blast, with the government extending the lockdown for another 3 weeks yesterday. There is a growing acceptance that the start of the season will have to be delayed further, which will have major implications for all forms of cricket this summer. Well, football's world governing body FIFA is against the appointment of a single arbitrator to hear the dispute between itself and the ousted executive of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. In its appeal last week to the Court of Arbitration for Sport to set aside FIFA's decision to appoint a normalization committee to oversee the daily operations of the TTFA, the lawyers for the ousted executive had proposed that Mark Hovell, a solicitor from Manchester, England, be the sole arbitrator in their case against football's world governing body FIFA. FIFA, however, favors a 3-member panel to hear the dispute. It will now fall to the president of CAS Appeals Arbitration Division or her deputy to decide on how many arbitrators will hear the dispute. Veteran sports administrator Adrian Donovan explains what this now means.
In simple terms, FIFA is saying that 3 heads are better than 1. In this particular case, FIFA feels that the matter is sufficiently complex that it is best and more fairly considered and adjudicated by a panel rather than by a single person. It does not necessarily mean that FIFA has a weak case. FIFA is basically saying that the case requires different perspectives and more heads than 1. To have 1 arbitrator is sometimes too heavy a responsibility where the issues are complex. In coming to a decision, it is sometimes best for an arbitrator to be able to discuss the case with other arbitrators before arriving at a decision. In local terms and in calypso competitions, every competitor would prefer a panel of judges over a single judge.
The Pan American Sports Organization has been reaching out to its athletes through a new series they're calling Expert Connection. The online-based program, assessed through the Pan Am Sports channel, engages athletes, trainers, and National Olympic committees throughout the Americas to receive advice from some of the sport's best facilitators, doctors, and administrators. Many of our local athletes were a part of the first session held last week, where saw more than 600 athletes engage in a session with renowned sports psychologist Dr. Jose Maria Buceta. The main aim of the series is to assure that the athletes who join the conversation now feel more equipped to handle the stress and anxiety produced by this worldwide pandemic, and they'll utilize the strategies presented to maintain a positive outlook and a strong mental focus. Now, the second presentation in the series is set for tomorrow with Dr. Sean McCann at 4 p.m. Barbados time. He will give a presentation and answer questions from athletes related to mental skills and strategies to cope with uncertainty and distraction.